9 years ago, I scripted my first lock-on camera. It took me 6 months. It was long before I knew what a C-frame actually was. A few weeks ago, I scripted another lock-on camera. It took me 3 minutes. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to script one and save you the 6 months it may have taken you. Alright, so before we actually start coding, I want to kind of explain how a camera works in Roblox so that you guys get the general idea. So go ahead and click play, and you should see inside of workspace there's something called a camera. And this camera is basically like a camera. So imagine that you're looking through a camera and this is what you see. This camera is the camera that you're looking through. So if let's say that my character was a model and I had a cameraman. The cameraman is currently looking through the camera and this is what he's seeing. So this game right here is what the cameraman is seeing. Now let's pretend that the cameraman is walking. Now look at what he's seeing. You see how the camera is changing? So the reason that the camera is changing is because the cameraman is walking. If the cameraman walks in the other direction, now the camera is changing again in a different kind of way. Now let's pretend that the cameraman is jumping. Well, now it's probably going to look like this. So it helps to think of the camera as like a first person kind of view. So let's actually look at this camera and try to change some properties and see what we can understand about it. So this camera has a bunch of properties. So it has C-frame, it has focus. What I'm actually going to start out with is let's change camera type and let's change it to follow. Let's see what that does. Okay, you guys can kind of see how it's changing now, right? So before the camera type was custom, this is what custom looks like. If we change it to follow, it now looks like this. So you can see the camera is actually kind of following us, right? So there's a difference. Now, we can also change this camera type to a different thing, maybe orbital. This is what orbital looks like. So I can't really move this camera down anymore. Now, because we're scripters, we actually want our own camera system, right? So these are like Roblox's default systems, but we are intelligent human beings and we're scripters. So we want to tell Roblox, hey, I don't like all of these settings that you've given me. I want you to do what I say. So I want the camera to do whatever I say. And if you want a custom camera, which is what we're going to do for this video because a lock-on camera is a custom camera, we can set the camera type to scriptable. And what this does is watch. The camera is now stationary. So the camera is not even moving. We can't even move the camera anymore. So like I'm like trying to move my camera. I can't even move it anymore. And our character is just walking. So this is like the basic principle that you guys have to understand before we can start messing around with this camera. So we first have to set this thing to scriptable. This tells Roblox, hey, I want to tell you what I want to do with this camera. And I don't want to listen to any of these settings that you have. I want you to listen to me because I'm the scripter. So that's what this means. And there's this thing called C-frame. So remember that C-frame is basically a data type that contains position and orientation information. So these three numbers represent where the camera currently is. Now, what happens if I change this 16, this middle number, to a 20? Well, now the camera's a little bit higher. That should make sense because we made this y-axis number a little bit bigger, which makes the camera go up. What if I change this to a 60? Well, now we're really high up in the sky. What if I change this to a 0? Well, now we're basically on the same level as like the spawn location, right? So as you can see, we can change the C-frame. We can also change the orientation. Let me try changing this to 90. Now we're like, I had to like tilt my head to see this. But as you can see, we can change a lot of properties about the C-frame, and that allows us to manipulate this camera. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing with our custom lock-on camera. Alright, so now that you guys kind of understand how the camera kind of works, let's actually do a simple small exercise just to kind of help you guys understand it a little bit more. So right now we have the spawn location. I want to basically write some code that gets the camera to look at the spawn location. And we're going to start out by making a local script inside of starter pack. We're going to local camera equals workspace.current camera. So you can do this. Camera equals workspace.camera. You can also do current camera. When I first learned about cameras in like 2017 or 16, I always used current camera because that's how I saw other people do it, but you can also use camera as long as you only have one camera. But the way that I do it is I just use current camera. So basically this means get the camera, which is this. So now that we have the camera, remember what I said in the beginning, we have to tell Roblox that we're going to be the scripter. So we're going to tell the camera what to do. And to do that, camera.cameraType equals scriptable. Now, if you like using enum, you can also do enum.cameraType.scriptable, whatever you want to do. So that basically means the same thing. So this is just us telling Roblox, hey, I want this camera type to be set to scriptable. So that's what we've told Roblox. And just to kind of show you that it works, if I click play, I can now move and the camera, just like before, it doesn't change. So it's like staying stationary and I can just move without the camera following me. And to just kind of make things look a little bit more clear to you guys, I'm gonna add our task.wait 6 here. So I'm gonna wait 6 seconds and then make it scriptable. So now if I click on play, see, I can still move, and then 6 seconds later, has it not been 6 seconds? Oh, there we go. Now the camera's stationary. So 6 seconds later, the camera became scriptable. So just so you guys can see what the difference is, I think it helps if you guys can visually see what the difference is between custom and scriptable. So this is what scriptable looks like. All right. So this, all it does is it sets the camera to scriptable. We're just going to start out by getting our camera to face this spawn location. So we want this camera to look at the spawn location basically. And the way we're going to do it is we can do this. Remember that camera had something called a C-frame? And remember that C-frame had position and orientation? We can basically tell the camera, hey, look at this spawn location. And that's kind of what we're going to do. So we're going to say equals cframe.new. And let me also get the player. And I'll also get the character and the humanoid root part. So we have the camera, the player, the character, the humanoid root part. And I think if you're watching this video, you probably already know what these do, but just in case you don't, since I don't know who's watching this video, since I don't know what level scripter you guys are at, I kind of have to explain everything just to make sure everyone gets it. So this player is this, right? The character is the thing in workspace with your name on it. That's the character. And then the HRP humanoid root part is that thing right there. This is an invisible part inside of our character. So now we need to tell the camera, hey, look at this spawn location. And the way we can do it is we can say, okay, local spawn location equals that thing right there. And then the C frame of the camera will be equal to the spawn location's position. Maybe we'll add a little bit to it. I'll kind of explain what I'm doing. But first, let me just show you that it works. So kind of what I did here is I said, okay, camera, I want you to move and also face. Remember, C-frame is position and orientation. I want you to set your C-frame such that. And I said, move to wherever the spawn location is, but not exactly where it is. I want you to move also 5 studs upward. So just to kind of show this to you, the spawn location, its position is right here. This is what the spawn location's position is. But we don't want the camera to directly go to where the spawn location is, right? We want it to go a little bit higher. So that's what I did right here. I'm adding 050 because 5 means go 5 studs higher. So it's going to do this. So it's going to go 5 studs higher. And then after the comma, I said, okay, then look at the spawn location. So once again, set the C frame to this being the position, meaning wherever the spawn location is, plus 5 studs up, and then look at the spawn location. And so if I click play, take a look. Oh, this is what it did. And as you can see, this is correct. So we told it to go to the spawn location and go 5 studs higher. It's kind of what it did, right? I mean, 5 studs is a little too small, but anyway, it went there and then it looked at the spawn location. So that's exactly what it's doing. Now we can take this 5, we can turn it into a 35. And now it looks a little bit easier to tell. So now this is how we do a top-down camera, by the way. This is like the fundamental for it. So all we did was we changed this number to 35 so that it goes up higher. So just to kind of show this to you in another way, this is the spawn location, and this is where our camera is. So we had our camera go over there and look down, and that's kind of what we produced. So now that we have the camera able to face the spawn location and also go, 35 studs above it, we now want to extend this idea to a lock-on camera system. And we'll start out by modifying this code. So right now it looks at the spawn location, but for a lock-on camera, we want to look at the target. And let's just say that our target is the player. So that means that instead of the spawn location, we now want to look at the player. And in particular, we wanted to look at the humanoid root part, like that. And we'll just set this to the spawn location's position. So now what I said was, okay, camera, go to where the spawn location is, go 35 studs higher. So once again, this is where the spawn location is. It'll go 35 studs higher, but I changed this part to hrp.position. So now it's going to look at your character. So as you can see, my character fell. Oh, that's weird. Okay, let's try something a little bit different. Let's do a task.wait 6 here. So now you can see 6 seconds later, it's going to basically look at it's right there, see? So 6 seconds later, it now looks at your player. Now, the problem here is we kind of have a lock-on camera. It's just very, very basic, right? So we have our character running, but our camera isn't facing the character. We want our camera to face the character. And so what we need to do is we need to wrap this into a while loop. So now we're telling Roblox, okay, now I'll just set this to 0.01 to make things a little bit easier to explain. So so this basically means every 0.01 seconds, make the camera start here and face there. So this is going to basically update the camera every 0.01 seconds so that it always looks at our humanoid root part. And now you kind of see this. Now it kind of looks like a security camera, doesn't it? So every 0.01 seconds, it's actually updating so that it's always looking at our character. So even when I jump, the camera is also jumping with me. Not really jumping, but it's always following me. It's always tracing me, right? And as I move closer, the camera also moves. And yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so that's cool and all, but I don't want the camera to, look at me from the sky. I want it to look at me from closer to the ground. So I'm going to set this to 5. Maybe I'll set this to 10. Maybe I'll set this to 3. And now the offset has changed a little bit so that the camera now looks at me from here. And as you can see, I'm moving around, and this is more of a lock-on camera. So now it's kind of pretending that the target is me, and then the player playing the game is this spawn location, right? And so now let's actually flip things a little bit. So instead of using the spawn location as the reference, let's use the humanoid root part. Instead of looking at the humanoid root part, we'll look at the spawn location. So now, see that? Now, this is actually, my player is like right behind this camera, by the way. If I move this spawn location, the camera also changes. And if I move my character, the camera also adapts itself so that it's basically a lock-on camera. So I'm just moving my character here. You can't really see my character because it's like behind the camera, but this is what it looks like. So let me just change a few numbers here, see what we can do. Maybe I'll make this a -10. 3 seconds later, and yeah, there we go. Now, let me kind of explain what I did here. So now every 0.01 seconds, the camera will be where the humanoid root part is, plus it'll go 5 above the humanoid root part. So to kind of illustrate this is the humanoid root part. Remember, it's an invisible part, and then 5 above it is probably like right up here. So that's what the 5 is. So it makes it go up and then we told it to go backward, and then we told it to go left. And that's how this camera ended up here. So by changing these numbers, you can change where the camera is located relative to your character. And so I'm just moving around, and you can see the lock-on camera is working pretty well. Boom, I can jump around. And yeah, pretty much there's your lock-on camera. Now you can actually make this smoother by using something called run service. So you can do this, run service. Oh, run service. Wow, I've been coding a lot today. So run service. And so this is every 0.01 seconds. What this allows us to do is instead of doing 0.01 seconds, we can make it update even faster by doing run service.render stepped wait. So this just makes it update a lot faster. Instead of doing 0.01 seconds, it's like much faster than that. And now it's even smoother. This will look really, really clean. If you're actually like coding this with me, it's gonna look really clean. And now let's just have a little bit of fun with this. So I'm just gonna make the spawn location a little bit bigger. I'm gonna change this to a 4, and now I'm gonna fall off. And you'll kind of see that our lock-on camera is working really well. We can actually move this thing. Well, we can move this thing. You guys can kind of see the point here. You can move this thing, and our camera will also follow it. And yeah, so we can actually, we can extend this and use a bunch of math so that this becomes, a lot more powerful than just looking at your target. We can add a lot more features into this. We can really bloat this script up and add a whole bunch of stuff to it to make this function even better. But the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys how to stop the lock-on camera, and we're actually going to attach it to a keybind. So just follow along. We're going to start by getting the user input service. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say user input service dot input began connect function IO. I guess we can do, you can use whatever key you want. For this video, I'll just use Q. So we're going to make it so that if you press Q, the lock on camera will happen. And then if you press Q again, then it stops locking on. And we can actually turn it into a function. So function lock on, and then function lock off. And then for locking on, we'll just put our lock on code right there. And then for locking off, remember that, so in the beginning, before the lock on happened, our camera was set to custom. We can just set it back to custom. Equals enum.camera-type.custom. So this basically means, okay, camera, revert back, right? And then lock on makes it scriptable again. So this is us telling Roblox, okay, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I want the camera to do. And then this is telling Roblox, okay, you can figure it out. And then we also want to make a Boolean variable. So we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. We'll set this to true, and then lastly we can set this to false. So what I basically did was I made a variable called isLockedOn, and this is just going to keep track of whether or not we're locked on. So in the beginning, you're not locked on. After you lock on, you're now locked on. While you're locked on, do the whole, camera updating thing. So as long as this is set to true, it will continually update the camera. The moment you lock off, we set this to false so that this whole thing stops running, right? This thing will only run if this is true. When we do lock off, we set it to false so that this stops running, and then we can have this run. And that's how we can make a lock off. This is reverting back to Roblox's camera. This is our custom locking on. And so we can say, okay, if you're not locked on already, then lock on. Otherwise, lock off. So this is the basic toggle mechanic. So if you press Q and you're not already locked on, then lock on. Otherwise, you can lock off. This is how we do a toggle mechanic with the lock on camera. And now let's try it out. So I'm just walking around, I'm gonna press Q, and now there's my lock on camera. I'm gonna press Q again, and I'm locked off. Q, lock on, Q, lock off. Q, lock on, Q, lock off, Q, lock on. Okay, yeah, so you guys get the point, right? And even if I'm facing this way, I can press Q and it locks me. Q, off, Q on, Q off, Q on, Q off. All right, and then the last thing that I'm gonna show you guys is what if you don't want it to lock onto the spawn location? Well, we can have it lock on to whatever your mouse is pointing at. So we'll get the player's mouse, and then instead of the spawn location, we'll just do mouse.target.position. And we'll do an if not mouse.target, then return. So basically, mouse is basically like your player's mouse. So like this cursor that you see right there, this is the mouse. And then this mouse has something called target. So when we're locking on, the target is basically like the part that it's pointing at. So if I'm pointing here, then the target will be this thing, right? So if the mouse doesn't have a target, then don't do anything. That's what we're doing here. And then instead of the spawn location, we're saying, okay, don't use the spawn location, use whatever the mouse is pointing at. And that's how we got the mouse.target here. And I'm going to create a bunch of parts so you can kind of see how it works. And there. So basically what we need to do is we need to have a local target equals mouse.target here. And then if that target doesn't exist, and we use the same target. So what we did before was we did mouse.target here. And the reason that won't work is because it's going to continually keep looking for the target, but we created a variable for it here, so it's going to use the same target. So now when you click lock on, it's going to figure out what your target is and then use that same target throughout the loop, so that every single time the camera doesn't have to figure out what your mouse is pointing at. It just uses whatever your mouse is pointing at when you press Q. So that's what we did here. So now if you hover over something and press Q, there we go. I can press Q again. I can hover over this, press Q. I can press Q. I can press Q here. And there you go. There's your lock on camera. Bam. All right, guys, I know that I haven't uploaded in a while, but if you guys enjoyed this video, then please make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. I did try to explain everything as thoroughly as possible because I know there's a lot of places where people can get confused. So if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments. And if I see it, I'll make sure to leave a reply.